After fully removing his coat, he revealed a vest holding a multitude of weapons such as grenades, handguns, and knives. He ripped off some sort of cosmetic plastic from his face to reveal a deep scar running down the side of his head to his jaw. Sunday's activities were relatively similar to the previous days, albeit on my own. Dallas was MIA, and with no phone to contact him, I was left to my own devices. Either way, I had a day to prepare for. Whether it was another sports tournament, theater play, or spa, it all blended together because I was laser-focused on one thing: the auction. Most of the wives and all of the children had since departed from the cruiser by midday, so the only people left were the ones participating in the last event. I sat in the back of the auditorium that was now fashioned into an auction house. Each of us was given a card with a number on it to place bids on the items presented. Seated in the back, I could see where everyone was placed, from Dad, Tessa, and Louisa in the middle to Kenny and his wife near the front of the stage. Finally joining me was Dallas, who planted himself on the seat to my left.
"Hello, stranger."
He cheerfully greeted me.
"Where have you been? I haven't seen you since last night."
I barked. He smiled, then eyed me up and down.
"And I could see you coming from a mile away with that stop sign of a turtleneck."
I was a little taken aback by his jab on my outfit. My Yves Saint Laurent cherry turtleneck with jet black high-waisted pants and boots was a fashion statement that most women would take a bullet to own. I really did need more female friends to appreciate my tastes.
"Whatever,"
I scoffed.
"Anyway, where is your mom? I thought you said you guys were going to bid together."
"She decided to go home early,
He answered, then pulled out his own bidding card.
so I'll be doing the bidding this year. She said our budget is $500,000, which seems a little short for all the things I had in mind, but I guess it will do."
500,000, huh? They must be in dire straits if that was their budget. Nevertheless, I hoped he got what he came for because I had more pressing issues. My stomach was in knots thinking of what I was about to do. Soon after, Jasper appeared from behind the curtain and took center stage. He grabbed the microphone and began tapping it for feedback.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
He began, then cleared his throat.
Welcome to the 41st annual auction at the Intercontinental. I am your host, Jasper Wellington, and I hope you have been enjoying your stay here.
There was a brief pause before the crowd began lightly clapping their hands.
This is the last event of the Intercontinental Getaway, and it is with great pride to be bidding away this year's wonderful items to our esteemed guests. The items will be presented in alphabetical order by each sponsor's representative, and all items will be sent with you as you leave the Intercontinental. 5% of each bid will go to our proprietors. With all that being said, happy bidding.
Everyone clapped once again and the auction commenced. Jasper moved to the side and a young lady came from the end of the stage rolling in an item covered by a piece of cloth.
For our first item,
The woman pulled off the cloth.
a perfectly preserved index finger of Mahatma Gandhi, representing the Culver Foundation, is Miss Daisy Strickland. The bid starts at 200.
It went without saying 200,000, and the bidding war began. Bids went up left and right as Jasper called them out like a machine drunk on Red Bull. My father was nibbling on Tessa's neck as he casually made a bid of 700,000. Items and bids proceeded as the late afternoon entered early evening. My heart pounded through my chest as it was almost time to make my move. There was no going back now.
And now for our next item.
"All right, Mercury, just breathe in and out. This is going to be a breeze."
I rolled in the easel holding the cloth-covered canvas and the bright lights of the stage hit me like a rolling boulder. I was on center stage.
Is a portrait by Mercury Angelopoulos, representing Paula Sanchez.
Quickly scanning the audience, Dad's head snapped in attention upon hearing my name. Dallas left earlier as soon as he won the item he bid for, while Kenny's face crept his usual smile as he sat with his hands placed on his lap. I pulled off the cloth to reveal what I had been working on for the past 6 months. Cynthia. Cynthia was a watercolor painting of a woman crying colorful tears. Her black lips contrasted heavily from the beautiful hues of tears pouring from her lemon-yellow eyes. I spent years learning how to paint, and Cynthia was my first ever expression of my hard work.
The bidding starts at 100.
1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. A seeming eternity went by as no one placed a bid. The biggest lump in my throat began to form as I did my best to stay calm on stage. The anxiety I had leading up to this was rightfully justified as I knew this would happen. It was ugly. My painting was ugly. Not even Dad made a bid for it. Almost collapsing from the embarrassment, I noticed a card raise from the corner of my eye. I turned my head to see Kenny, with his insatiable smile, placing the first bid.
100,000 from number 44. Anyone topping that?
Jasper sped off. Immediately after, more bids began to pop up and I let out a cough that hopefully masked me almost choking up in tears. Bids went up at breakneck speeds, reaching the 500s, and Kenny almost bid again, but his wife just as quickly put his hand down. I looked to where my father was to see his head swiveling left and right as bids flew by. The bid was up to 700 before he placed his. After all of this time, I finally had the answer I was looking for.
I have never seen you go empty-handed, Ilios.
What can I say? There weren't too many items that caught my eye.
Everyone was gathered in the lower-level conference room for the post-auction banquet to celebrate their winnings. Kenny was with his wife until I noticed him roll away. Tessa and Louisa were attached to Dad's hip, and Dallas was still nowhere to be found. Strong drinks were being served, and I was inhaling them left and right while glaring at my father. I was on the cusp of being flat-out drunk, but damn it, I let myself continue drinking. How can he keep laughing and rubbing shoulders with his pompous posse after embarrassing me like that? There was hell to pay, and I had every intention to collect. Wolfing down one more drink, I slammed my glass onto the table and charged towards my father, brushing anyone in my path out of the way.
How dare you?
I lashed out, not caring for the downpouring eyes on us.
How dare you do that to me?
There was a taken-aback look of confusion on my father's face.
Mercury, what are you talking about?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. How could someone else outbid you for your daughter's hard work? How?
Even in my semi-inebriated state, I could feel my throat vibrate in rage.
Look at you, flaunting your ego to these peons who are just trying to suckle at your teats.
Someone's hand grabbed my shoulder from behind.
Mercury,
It was Tessa.
you've had a lot to drink. Let's take you.
I spun around and swiped her hand off of my shoulder.
And you, the next whore in the never-ending line of whores looking for a piece of the pie. Do you think Dad even values you? You're only as good as the tits and blowjobs you bring to the table.
Gasps and snickers came from the onlookers. Coming from Tessa's eyes were trinkles of tears as her haze turned from crimson anger to embarrassed pink. The shade matched her dress, in which I gave a light smirk at first thought. Tessa's face seemed twisted with hurt, almost as if my words stabbed her in the abdomen. Good.
That's enough.
Dad grabbed me by my arm, but I instantly pried myself from his grasp.
No, it's not enough.
I spat back.
You don't care about anything except your precious clubs, Aphrodite this, Aphrodite that. Yet you know full well who helped you secure those deals and accumulate your wealth. I was the one helping you, not this bimbo.
Dad's eyes began circling the room at the either aghast or giggling crowd. He softened his tone.
Mercury, can we please take the...
Perfect example. You care more about how people look at you than the input of your own daughter. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I hope you get everything you deserve.
It was then that it felt like my father and I were the only two people in the room. His usual passionate emerald mist contorted into a hue of lavender shame. Its shade was so dark, so depressing that it almost made me pity him, and his face matched it. Seeing his perpetually striking blue eyes, reddened with tears, made me take back my pity. The catharsis of seeing my father like this was worth it. I brushed by him as I made my way to the exit.
You'd better be there.
I stormed the corridors in search of my prey. I needed a release, some sort of dopamine fix, and Dallas was the perfect candidate. I stumbled into the hallway where his room was, fighting the effects of the alcohol. I noticed that the door to his room was ajar, which made my job much easier, so I barged in.
Dallas, I want you inside me,
I suddenly stopped to gather what I was witnessing. Dallas was on his knees polishing the knob from the gentleman he was flirting with yesterday. He stopped what he was doing and turned around to face me. Slobber plastered his face that he tried to swipe off as he gave me a surprised look.
Why didn't you knock first?
He spat.
Who raised you?
There was a pit in my stomach that kept me from responding. My eyes fluttered in disbelief as I made a 180 pivot out the door.
Wait, Merc.
Dallas shouted from behind me. I didn't know why I expected anything different from Dallas. Disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. The effects of the alcohol finally had its grasp on me as I struggled to walk straight. While I continued to wobbly storm down the hall, I could hear Dallas gaining on me.
Merc, wait a sec.
Turning a corner, I crashed into one of the bellhops face first into his chest.
Sorry.
I quickly apologized. Before I could speed by him, he grabbed me by my arm.
Mercury Angelopoulos, yes?
I looked down at his hand clutching my arm, then to the bellhop's face.
What are you doing?
I need you to come with me.
Unhand me. Like hell.
In his offhand, he was brandishing a revolver, pointing directly towards my midsection. He then pulled up a cloth, masking the bottom portion of his face to only reveal his eyes.
This is not a request.
He threatened through the mass, boasting a mist of mixed colors. People's mists were always a mixed bag when I was inebriated, but I wasn't so discombobulated as to not process the gun he had trained on me. Dallas finally caught up to me, coming to an immediate halt upon seeing the gun.
Whoa, what the hell is going on?
Dallas croaked, eyeing the revolver. The bellhop pointed the gun towards him.
You're coming with us as well. Now, hands up and walk forward.
All right, jeez.
Dallas put his hands above his head and walked in front of us as the gun-toting bellhop pressed the firearm on his back. The bellhop led us back to where the banquet was taking place to see all of the guests aboard the Intercontinental huddled in the middle. Other masked bellhops, cooks, massage therapists, and attendants circled the group with firearms pointed at the huddle. I didn't need my frantic synesthesia to tell me the mood of the room. The faces that were laughing before now showed the visage of unabated terror. Dad's was no different.
Mercury!
He shouted, then tried to rush towards me. Before he could get any closer, one of the cooks gave him a swift jab with his pistol and he tumbled onto a guest.
Elios!
Tessa came to his aid with Louisa close behind. The pair helped him sit up as blood trickled down his head. The cook that hit Dad walked towards the captor holding Dallas and I hostage.
Is that her?
Yes, and there are a few more stragglers.
The bellhop kicked Dallas in the back, pushing him into the scared huddle. From behind him, Kenny's wife stepped forward.
I need to find my husband. He is blind and helpless.
Don't worry, darling.
Another bellhop ordered, then began unbuttoning his jacket. He was a slender black man with a patchy beard and a messy mop of hair on his head.
He and everyone else will be found.
After fully removing his coat, he revealed a vest holding a multitude of weapons such as grenades, handguns, and knives. He ripped off some sort of cosmetic plastic from his face to reveal a deep scar running down the side of his head to his jaw.
Esteemed guests of the Intercontinental, my name is Jean-Pierre Rousseau, and we are known as Syndicate 64. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Jasper stepped forward.
You have no idea the levels of hell you have brought upon yourselves. Only a fool would commandeer this ship.
The man turned his attention towards Jasper and glared.
Commandeer? Oh no, monsieur. We only want the items you had for auction. The rest of you will die.
He said matter-of-factly. Gas burst from the huddle with a woman even fainting.
There will be hell to pay for your transgressions against the society. Your loved ones were...
Without warning, the man pulled out his own revolver and shot Jasper in the head. Blood splattered on the face of the woman behind him, forcing her eyes shut. Her face contorted into unbridled horror as she let out a blood-curdling scream. More screams erupted from the crowd as Jasper's body slumped to the ground while others moved away from his corpse. Letting what transpired sink in, I immediately regained focus.
No.
Please take my threats more seriously, ladies and gentlemen.
The man shouted, then pointed his gun to the crowd.
That gentleman receives a quick ticket to paradise, which won't be the same for you well-off lot. You will be left to drown after we take the items for auction.
With the help of Tessa and Louisa, Dad stood up, blood trickling down his forehead.
Is that what this is all about?
He seethed through his teeth.
Steal, then punish the rich?
Please, Dad, just stay down. The scarred man looked towards my father.
An oversimplification, but yes, monsieur.
Walking in from behind us was another masked bellhop holding a firearm. He was fidgeting with the firing pin, which made loud clicking sounds before giving his attention to the scarred man.
Perimeter secured.
He informed. The scarred man nodded.
Good. Any trouble?
May have jammed up my gun dealing with a mouthy cripple.
First Jasper and now Kenny too. I looked towards Kenny's wife to see her right eye twitching.
If you're going to leave us for dead, why do you have my daughter?
Dad continued. The scarred man walked to where I was still being held by the bellhop. The bellhop handed me over to him.
Someone needs to live to tell the world what happened and who to give the credit to. Hell, might even get a good ransom.
The scarred man answered.
Plus, it doesn't hurt that this lovely mademoiselle will provide my men with some comfort before we set her free.
Dad lunged towards the scarred man, taking everyone by surprise. Before the man could pull out his gun, Dad leapt on top of him, breaking his grasp on me.
Mercury, run!
Dad shouted as he wrestled the man. A shot went off and everything came to a standstill. It was as if the world held its collective breath.
No!
I screamed as I watched in disbelief. Still on top of the scarred man, Dad slowly looked down towards his belly to see blood pouring through his suit. The scarred man tried to push him off, but Dad still had a hold of him.
So stubborn!
The scarred man shouted. 3 more bullets pierced through Dad, each one sending ripples through my entire being. Dad finally let go, and the scarred man pushed him off, but something flew off of him. One of the grenades he had careened to the other side of the room. The scarred man looked to his right to see the pin on the ground next to him.
Fuck!